Welcome into your favorite show, Views from the Stands. I'm your host, Stevie B, Steve Brennan, and if you know, I got my two partners with me. We got the GM, G Mike. How are you doing today, my man? It's a Saturday. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Running on lack of sleep, but we here, baby. We're here to work.
Dedication right there, man. Not only is he dedicated to the work, but he's dedicated to this grind of the sports world. So you're welcome out there, world. Anyways, we also got our other
Half
guy out
asleep
there.
too.
Brandon BC, looking good today, man. How you feeling today?
I mean, I look good. I feel good. I got the Tampa Bay Rays All-Star hat right here, the warm-up that they wear for the All-Star game. I got the All-Star Game 2024 shirt. Y'all can't see it, but I got the Home Run Derby socks that look like a pair of cowboy boots. I am all decked out, ready to go for some work today after the show. I'm ready to rock and roll, fellas.
So your socks look like cowboy boots?
Oh yeah, let me see if I can. Let's see. There they are, man.
So is that like an excuse you can be classy and not wear shoes places?
Yeah.
That's Tropicana Field for you. But
My
yeah,
man said no shirt, no shoes, no socks, no service. You know what I mean? I got cowboy boots for socks. I'm good to go.
If he goes to a country concert, he's good on wearing shorts. You'll be good.
Telling you,
There we
we've
go,
got
man.
Riley Green in concert coming up around August 10th, I think. So man, I got that date. So I'm ready to boot, scoot, and boogie, man.
Yeah, that's all you can go ahead and boot, spoot, and boogie on yourself on that one, man. Hey, anyways,
I'll be watching the Olympics.
What's up?
I said I'll be home watching the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Man, we have a absolutely jam-packed show. We got some holdouts, we got some hold-ins, and we got some players that got PAID paid yesterday.
Wow.
Man, there's some people out there making some money. Then we continue our series as we're breaking down the mighty AFC East. But before we get all that exciting news in the world of sports, we got to do some self-promotions. We got to pay some bills. G, Mike, why don't you go ahead and start us off, man? What you got?
Yes, sir. Guys, you already know if you're into sports gambling. I run a Telegram channel where we charge $5 a month to get you any winnings from $10 to $50 to $100 a day. And especially now with the Olympics coming on, we got Olympic basketball, we got Olympic soccer. I got a parlay going on right now, so hopefully Argentina and Spain do not mess it up for me right now. But if you guys are into it, you'll see the link at the bottom of your screen, or you'll see my social media accounts. You can just DM me there, and we'll get you going.
Absolutely. A little extra money never hurt anybody. But we also can't forget our good friends at Brandes Media for all your videography and photography needs. Brandon, why don't you let the people know a little bit more about your you guys' little business you got going on?
I mean, hey, it's me and my wife, Desi. It's our little business we got going on. We do wedding photography. We do engagement photography and videography as well. We got all of our packages and stuff online at brandes.media. And again, if you guys, weddings are stressful enough, engagement shoots are stressful enough. We just want to kind of make it easy for you guys. We want to make it personable. We want to make sure that, you guys have as little stress as possible from the photography, from the videography side. And hey, at Brandes Media, we want to make memories that last a lifetime for you guys. So, hey, give us a holler, brandes.media.
Absolutely. And let's face it, stress and weddings always go together, like cakes in the face, so reach out to Brandes Media and they'll get you covered out there. Man, what a day it was yesterday. So we had the opening ceremonies for the Olympics going on, and that seems like that's going to be the talk of the day. And I will digress as a metalhead if I did not shout out NBC for showing Gorgira out there performing out there and put on a hell of a performance. So shout out to NBC for actually showing metal on TV and France for putting on some metal on some TV. Anyways, that got me excited going there. So anyways, man, we all thought that was going to be like the big news of the day. You had the opening ceremonies and the NFL's like, wait a second, we're the king of the world here. We're not going to be forgotten about your little Olympic games you got going on. As the Miami Dolphins made some major news, signing Tua Tagovailoa to a 4-year, $212.4 million extension with $167.1 million guaranteed. This new deal will put him at $53.1 million per season. Golly, that's a lot of money for a Friday afternoon. Tua had himself a year last year. He throwing for 4,624 yards, which was first in the league, 29 TDs, which was tied for fifth in the league, and 14 interceptions. He also came in with a QBR of 60.8, which was 10th in the league. The writing was on the wall for the deal to get done. G. Mike, how do you feel about the deal getting done for the Dolphins and Tua?
I'll say finally, man. I mean, Tua's been waiting a long time for it. He's been trying to prove himself day in and day out since he's got into the league. You know, he's not that tall of a QB. He's like 5'7", 5'8",
Represents
maybe
for the short guys.
maybe on a good day 5'10", maybe. But my boy brought up a great point. Dude, through all these years, he's been proving himself so much because of the injury prone situation with, with his knee, with the concussions, with how small he is. He gets hit. He's fragile, So like him trying to prove himself day in and day out is something that he really needed to do since he stepped into the NFL. And it's been like he's probably been the most anticipated QB to get his money's worth, in the sense of like they've taken so long to pay him that I think he for sure waited what 6 7 years to get a contract this big. Yeah, maybe the last time he got a little pay increase, but it wasn't as big as this contract. And honestly, bringing in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, helping him out there, it really revamped. I would say his confidence, his play style on the field. Now he's got a little more tweaking. I say he got to bring in the playmaker aspect of it, but all in all, Tua deserves it. I'm glad he got his money.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. BC, are you a Tua guy or what?
I mean, I think that he definitely proved himself this year for sure. And I mean, the additions of Hill and Waddle definitely help. I wasn't sold on him at first, thought he might have been a bit too injury prone. I mean, there's still those risks out there just with concussions, his history with it. But the way he played this year, he played like easily top 10, borderline top 5 QB. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's very high on him. He's got him in his personal top 5 list of quarterbacks. So I feel like Miami, they made the right move because they got not only their guy in terms of the organization, but also too the guy that a lot of the teammates and the players think that as well is going to be their QB. They got him locked up, and I think that that's the important thing, that continuity. I think sometimes, when what we see with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, Brady coming to the Bucks, I think a lot of times we see those moves and be like, oh yeah, some teams they just need to get a different quarterback or a better quarterback, and it solves all their problems. Not every, but goats don't necessarily just kind of fall off of trees in the NFL. Sometimes, you got to keep continuity with the team and just be patient with these quarterbacks. Let them progress, let them show what they've got. And I think that Tua, he's got the right pieces around him now. He took those leaps last year. I think that this for the Dolphins is the exact move that they needed to do.
Yeah, see, I really didn't understand all the hate on Tua. The only downfall I saw in Tua's game was possibly the concussion thing, and yet that's something you can't handle.
Yeah.
He also did the weird approach of doing the taekwondo stuff and getting slammed more, but it seemed to work. I guess I don't know. Note to self: try if you don't want to get hit in the head, get hit in the head more. I don't know. But having said that, though, I think Tua showed the poise to be a elite quarterback in this league. You can't. If this league has so many damn good quarterbacks out there, and to be number one in the league, it's obviously a good system, but Tua is a huge part of that system. And what I like about Tua is that he doesn't try to overdo it. Tua's never going to be that guy that's going to, throw that boneheaded play, and you're like, what are you doing, man? Tua's always going to be the more controlled person out there, and that comes from his personality. If you've ever seen any of him with his family, he's very respectful, very, mellow mannered. So I think Tua fits in perfect. And what I like about Tua and the Dolphins is that they all seem like they love playing together. Like Tyreek Hill was extremely excited that he got paid. A lot of times it's like the diva quarterback, it seems like, but I feel like Tua is like the totally polar opposite of that. And for some reason, he's been hated on quite a bit by the media. And I don't really get that either. Like even whenever he tried to get some tattoos and put on some weight, some people were calling him chubby. And then he got them. And then he tried to lose some weight. They were complaining about that. So I really don't understand where all the hate for Tua comes from, especially from a guy, from all accounts, is a great person and doesn't do anything that causes any problems or any drama, locker room or outside of the league. So I never really understood all the Tua hate in there.
Yeah, and I mean, what's funny though too is like you said, like he doesn't make a lot of boneheaded plays, which I mean, we see so many guys. Look at Josh Allen last year; like he led the league in turnovers, but yet he's still so beloved and everything like that. Like I don't fully understand it. But what's interesting though too is that he's very cerebral, doesn't make a lot of boneheaded plays. You would think the amount of concussions he'd have, like he probably would be susceptible to one or two. But I will say though too, going back to the Taekwondo, martial arts training in general, like you want to dull the pain, you want to get used to taking hits and stuff like that. You just get hit over and over again. Your body just adapts and is resilient. So it's some pretty smart training when you think about it. Like my dad, the countless times he would talk about the training when he was in Kung Fu, you wanted to get your fists strong to be able to withstand the punishment of hitting. They would just hit like wood. You'd break boards, you would hit, they would have metal pipes against their shins so they could take the punishment. So like he's going about it, I think, in an interesting way. Like you want to be durable enough to last through an NFL season. Well, you gotta sometimes put your body through hell a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that like Tua doesn't do a lot of bold-headed plays and he actually sticks to the script, but it could be on the negative side as well because you see
Yeah.
these top quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, the list goes on and on. When you put them in a certain category, like the reason why Patrick Mahomes is so great is because obviously he's accurate, he could throw the long ball, he's intelligent, but he also knows how to play make. He knows how to extend plays. He knows how to get
Yeah.
his receivers the ball. What not in the first 2 seconds of the play, maybe in the next 5 to 7 seconds. Like he's got to extend the play. You got to run around the field and get the ball to a certain guy at a certain point later in the play. And that's what I feel like Tua does not do, and that's what he needs to do to his game. Tweak a little more. What I was saying earlier, give him more
More off
finesse.
script.
Yeah, go get a little finesse in your game because it's like, yes, you're a very accurate quarterback, and I truly believe he is the number one accurate quarterback in the league right now. But if you're telling me that you can only throw slants, post fades, long
Right.
balls, and you can't extend plays when your offensive line is super tired at that third quarter, fourth quarter mark, and they can't really be protecting you as much, and you're down 10 points, you need to score a touchdown, go get a field, go get the ball back, and all this stuff, and then 2 minute drill down at the end of the game. Now you're gonna be looking at Tua like, okay,
You look at it a
just
little side eye.
try to get the ball to Tyreek Hill, but then he's gonna be double covered. He's gonna have a safety over the top as well, and it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, we need you to do more. You need to be more active with your legs. Yeah, we're scared for you to get a concussion, but this is why you did Taekwondo. Learn how to fall. Learn how to get on the ground. Not let your head whiplash against the ground. So I think he needs to put a little more aspect in the playmaking, and that would just like jump him from how you said he's in the top 10, borderline top 5. If he becomes a playmaker, he's easily top 3, top 4.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
it's going to be interesting to see. Like the Dolphins have the benefit because of the style they play of playing from the lead a lot. Tua doesn't really have to ever come back very much because he doesn't throw very many interceptions and create turnovers. But the Dolphins generally are scoring at the same time you're scoring, so Tua doesn't really have to be that come from behind quarterback very much, which is a benefit to have, obviously.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to be breaking down the AFC East more, so we'll be definitely talking more about these Dolphins. I wanted to talk to you guys about the contract itself. Do you think that was the right amount of money, Brandon? Because if you look who we'll be getting into another contract here in a couple of minutes, but anyways, but what I'm saying is that do you think that one of the last few guys, Trevor Lawrence, and same state. So it kind of just, he didn't get as much as Lawrence did. And so that kind of, to me, I think Tua has proven himself to be a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. Do you think this number is good for the Dolphins, or do you think that it's too low and that he's going to just be demanding more money in a couple of years?
I think that what this is showing is to his personality. I think that for him, like he is more focused on, I think, winning than necessarily making the most money. Like, yeah, he probably sees Lawrence's contract. I'm sure he thinks, yeah, I'm worth more than that guy. But I think he also understands that, there are other guys on the team that need to get paid. And I think that he's shown that maturity to be like, yeah, I'll get my bag. I could get more because I might be worth more in the market, but I also want to maximize my ability to win. I want to maximize my ability to have success over the long term and not just for 1 or 2 periods and then command this massive contract and screw myself over. And I think that that's more indicative necessarily of his character and not necessarily what Miami thinks of him.
Yeah, he definitely took a page out of Jalen Brunson's book, and he tried to, because he's very selfless. Like he's
Yeah.
not about himself. He's about the team. He's about the people around him, people that
Yeah.
care for him and want to do a great job with him as well. So I definitely agree. He probably told him like, yo, don't worry, I'll take less money. And then with the rumors coming out with Jordan Love that we're gonna get into in a little bit, the rumors coming out of Jordan Love trying to get a new contract or whatever, I'm pretty sure the Dolphins were like, yo, we need to pay this man right now, because if Jordan Love gets this amount of money, then we're going to have to give Tua that amount of money.
Yeah. And that's something that's very important to do, though, too, is making sure that, you don't wait too long, because then that's the one problem the Bucks have right now with Wirfs' contract. They waited until after Penei Sewell just re-upped and got his new deal, and now they're having to now try to figure out how the market's going to reset that. So,
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes out of Miami with the money was Tyreek Hill saying, "Oh, I want Tua to get paid, but make sure you save enough for me as well."
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then the other quote that he had when he came to Miami, he's like, "F those picks."
yeah,
That was
exactly,
awesome.
exactly.
That was awesome.
legend.
Man, and as like pretty much everybody, as we were just kind of sitting back, taking it all in, that we had the newest highest paid QB in the league. In comes Mr. Jordan Love and says, "Tua, that's cute. You got a new contract, but hold my beer." As the Green Bay Packers agreed to a 4-year, $220 million with $55 million guaranteed and a record-setting $75 million signing bonus. This new deal puts Love in elite company at $55 million a year that only two other guys are in this club: Joe Burrow, and as we just mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, making them the only three quarterbacks that are in the $55 million a year salary and up. Let's not forget how good Jordan was. Jordan was last season, though. He threw for 4,159 yards, which was seventh in the league. 32 TDs, which was second in the league, only 11 interceptions, and a QBR of 62.1, who puts him just above Tua for ninth in the league. BC, this money keeps on coming in for these quarterbacks. Do you like the signings for both teams?
I think so. Again, both teams are showing that they got their guy, and they want to make sure they lock him up long term. And yeah, right now, like you said, Burrow and Lawrence are the only guys that are making northwards of Love's contract. But again, we also need to realize, just like with the NBA, that the NFL is continuing to make more money. They're continuing to make more profits. And give it about 2, 3, 4, 5 years, those contracts are going to look like complete steals by default. So, and I say this to say that just for fans, don't freak out if you see, oh my gosh, he's making so much money now compared to Patrick Mahomes. Like, no, the players are going to keep making more money as the league keeps bringing in more money. It's just natural. But at the end of the day, Packers got their guy, Dolphins got their guy, and I think that's what's most important right now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And Jordan Love proved himself last year. Yeah, it was only 1 year that he proved himself, and in like the first 4 weeks of the season, he wasn't doing as good. I remember the first game of the season, he didn't even get one passing yard into the second half of the game. So it's like, everybody has their timeline. Was what I talked about earlier with Tua. Like, he's been in the league, 7 years, 6 years, and now he's finally getting this contract. Jordan Love's been in the league 3, 4 years. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers 1 or 2 years, and then played and proved himself. Almost got to the Super Bowl. Almost beat one of the top teams in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. So it's like, once you prove yourself, I think you are definitely eligible to get that next max contract.
Yeah, and what's interesting with Jordan Love too is that it is almost as if a light bulb just flicked on for him, because, like you were saying before, he started out not great, and most Green Bay fans were, I think, ready to write him off and just, we're moving on to the next draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just took a little bit of time, and he finally got that confidence with his young wide receiver core and just started balling. Really, I mean, second in the league in touchdowns at 32. That's pretty damn impressive as well.
Yeah.
And I think with Jordan Love, I think it just came down to understanding the NFL and the playbook, and just feeling confident, feeling that he could do this. Because let's face it, man, with being a Packers for the last 2-3 decades, you've had legendary quarterbacks that are put on such a shrine, on such a high standard. Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre prior to that. Those aren't easy shoes to fill ever, and especially with the way Aaron Rodgers left. It almost seemed like the Packers knew it before Jordan Love did, because they basically were like, "Hey, we got our guy, Aaron Rodgers. Like, it was, we had our fun, but it's time to move on." And that's a lot of pressure to understand that your whole city is on your back on that situation. And he's young and only played one full season.
Yeah.
So I think when that lightning bulb went off for him, he really did prove that, hey, I am where I'm supposed to be. I am elite.
Yeah, and what's going to be important now for the Packers to do is, now that you've got him, like, yeah, your finances are pretty much set for this year, so whatever happens, happens. But over the next few years, as now you're increasing your salary cap, as now this deal is looking better and better for you, now you need to learn from the mistakes of your past and maximize the talent around him. So that way you're not just getting one Super Bowl championship out of Love like you did with Rodgers and Favre. Because that's another thing.
Yep.
Over the course of 20 plus years of Favre and Rodgers, you have 2 Super Bowls to account for. So that's for a team, for a city that calls itself Title Town, that's pretty unacceptable when you have Hall of Fame quarterbacks from each league. So hopefully they learn from those mistakes and they can maximize the talent around Love.
No, that's very well said, Brandon. And it's just like, dude, you gotta bring in some weapons, especially in the receiving court, man. Like for Aaron Rodgers, you had Devontae Adams. No, before him, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
He was
Randall
like a
Cobb.
lone wolf out there. And then you bring in Randall Cobb, but Randall Cobb is not a true wide receiver 1 or even wide receiver 2. He's more of a slot. So you dip and dunk. You're trying to get like 10 to 15 yards. Yeah, he's going to get like maybe 5 catches a game for like 45 yards, 65 yards. He's going to do his thing, maybe get a touchdown here and there, not a consistent basis. But when you only have one true wide receiver 1 and then wide receiver 2 and 3 are just like randoms off the street, you're not going to really be doing much, man.
Well, not just that, but also to your tight ends. Like name a famous Green Bay Packers tight end that actually worked out. And even going back to Favre, you had just Donald Driver as your main guy, and then Sterling Sharp before him. And even the running backs, like you had Amon Green for a little bit, and then who with the current iteration of the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. You gotta get some weapons for him. You can't just rely on one guy and chalk it up as done. You gotta really make an effort.
We'll be definitely getting into the Packers here in probably about 2 weeks or so, something like that. So something to look forward to. But I'm kind of on the opposite end of this. I really like their wide receiver core. They have a great young wide receiver. You got Reed. If Christian Watkins can stay healthy, that guy is a blazing fast speed out there. He went on that. If you remember last year or the year before that, he went on that stretch of breaking records of most touchdowns in an amount of games. So like they have the talent out there. They also got Wicks. I like the addition of Josh Jacobs, so I think they're on the right track out there. But we'll definitely be getting into the Packers here in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, definitely good now, but in the past years, they've been like,
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it really what's going to be interesting too is because we're in the AFC East, in which we were just talking about Aaron Rodgers. I think it will be I have a lot to say about Rodgers coming up in a little bit of going to the Jets, but it's kind of interesting with how the Packers were constructed with that. I mean, you had your core, you had Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. Jordy Nelson was definitely alpha there, and at one point you had Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, and Randall Cobb there. And like you were saying before, they were only able to come up with about 1 Super Bowl out of that situation. So that is kind of a letdown in there. And like you were saying, Title Town is for sure. Green Bay is definitely all about those titles. But I think they're on the right track. And I think signing Jordan Love was the right move for them. We talked about it in another on Peace in the Streets Radio. George and I did where we do on Wednesday nights on iHeartRadio. We were talking about it before about we need to see Jordan Love get paid, but we don't have to see him break the record. Well, they did break the record with this one. I feel like that they saw enough in him in this contract that said, we believe in you, but this is really one of those contracts. The amount of money that they're giving him. If it was a one-hit wonder, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I'm hoping for the Packers' sake that they do see, and Jordan Love does give them that warm and fuzzy feeling because he only played 1 full season, and there's been times we've all know, somebody, for instance, we talked about it last week, Peyton Hillis. Remember when that guy was the man and he was on the Madden cover and then he didn't hear anything from him again. So sometimes these guys have these breakout years and it doesn't always work out. But I do have faith in Jordan Love, just looking at the way they play. I like the play calling they have for Jordan Love, and I do like those wide receivers, and it just gives them more time to gel. But this is a big contract because they're offering him a lot of guarantee and a lot of signing bonus, and if it doesn't work out, you're stuck with this one for a little while. So that one could sting for a little while, but I do believe in Jordan Love.
Yeah.
So this was something really interesting. And I got to give props to the great Adam Schefter for this stat out here. So check this one out here. The QB class of 2020 has now produced nearly $1.25 billion in contracts. All right. So let's not forget who was in that 2020 class. Joe Burrow at $275 million. Tua at 212.4 million, Justin Herbert at 262.5 million, Jordan Love at 220, and Jalen Hurts at $225 million. So that COVID year was great for some guys, you know?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for those guys.
The richest draft class for QBs in NFL history right there. Incredible.
Yeah, and what's wild too about that draft class is it's always fun to kind of look back. They all got drafted probably where they actually should have been drafted at as well. I don't feel like there was any guy that really slipped. You can maybe make the case for Jalen Hurts, but he went to a team that needed him, and there was no competition. Therefore, he was the right fit for them. And they revolutionized the game with Jalen Hurts with the whole push and how they did all that. So I think that draft class has to go down as one of the best QB draft class in a long time, right?
For sure.
Say so.
Yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting. And, you know, there's also two other guys just kind of sitting back, laughing, sipping on some lemonade in the summertime, just chilling. That's Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, and which we'll be talking about the Cowboys a lot more next week, but we got some more Cowboys news coming up. But those guys got to be sitting there just, you know, kind of enjoying all of this, because the way the QB market goes, one guy gets paid and it's fun to be on top for a little bit, but it ain't going to last forever.
Yep. I'm curious to see who's going to be the first QB to break 60 million a year. That's going to be the real interesting test.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not
Probably
far away, and I almost feel like it's going to be a guy that's not going to be worth it.
Yeah. Like you said, George.
If you look at who's coming up in the contracts, I don't feel like it's not going to be Mahomes. He's there. I don't
Mahomes
think he
is
will.
selfless.
Yeah, Mahomes is selfless, so I don't see him doing that. But I don't really think there's going to be a guy that's coming up that's going to be really worth that amount of money, because that's just a crazy amount of money. But
Kirk Cousins after his first contract with the Falcons, because Falcons going to Falcons.
Yeah, well, it'd be Michael Penix. Watch.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Next year, Michael Penix next year.
That would be even funnier. And then I want to see their GM explaining to the owner why they just signed Penix to 60 million, even though he hadn't played a single snap with Cousins.
Bro, if you guys see this guy's squat game, this guy squats 6 plates, bro.
No, in t-shirt and shorts, he kills it all.
He made this one great throw at training camp. Like, trust me, it's all gonna work out.
Bro, he plays so good in Madden. Just watch how he plays Madden.
He really understands the game. If you saw his Madden record, he understands football. Let me tell you.
This guy goes undefeated in Madden. What's his difficulty? I think he plays on amateur.
Well, he plays arcade version, but I mean, he's
right.
Man, there's rookie and then there's amateur, man. That's just sad.
Yeah, and he'll be up to veteran status by the time he actually starts playing. So,
ugh.
All right. Well, with training camp in full swing, it's been almost like the hokey pokey, man. We got guys holding in, we got guys holding out. So holding in, we have Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. If you, while you're out there and you're listening in the car, to dance a little bit. If you're at home watching on TV, you can put your left hand in, put your left hand out for us. You know.
Oh, I just died a little inside.
Chase with
we're making a boy band. Views from the stage.
There we go. That's another new podcast there, you know, another new episode. The dance off.
Oh boy.
So anyways, we got Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals, and Chase without question has produced for the Cincinnati Bengals and is looking to get paid like his fellow LSU wideout did last season, and Justin Jefferson. Chase is scheduled to make a base salary of $1 million and has 4.86 in total guaranteed money. That's crazy to think that Jamar Chase is only going to make about $1 million a year. He's on that rookie deal, and that's how these guys are able to, build teams around them. But just to say that in the same sentence, when we're talking about, Trevor Lawrence making $55 million, it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so since coming into the league in 2021, Jamar Chase has had 3,717 yards, 29 TDs, and averaged 13.9 yards per reception. Since he has been on record saying they don't think that they're going to get a deal done during the season and would like to wait for the offseason. Mike, is Cincinnati playing with fire over there with Jamar Chase?
Dude, I think it's a game of who's gonna do it first between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys, right? And you're gonna bring this up a little later with CeeDee Lamb holding out right now, and it's just like they're trying to see who's gonna give up first and be like, you know what, we're just going to pay this guy already and get it over with and get him in training camp, give him the security blanket, make him feel comfortable, and he comes in and works 10 times as harder with the money that he's got. I feel like both dudes are going to do the same thing. They're both great. They're both great athletes. They know how to catch the ball. They can get 10 catches a game if they get 10 attempts a game. 10 targets a game. And it's just, they're both great Pro Bowlers. One almost became a Super Bowl champion in the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, they lost that, but he was almost there in the promised land, and he definitely deserves the money. He get the money already, but I really think that it's just coming down to who's gonna pull the trigger first between the Dallas Cowboys and Cincinnati Bengals with these receivers.
BC, how you feeling, buddy?
I mean, I would tend to agree with George. And again, I compare this a lot to, I take a lot of situations compared to the Bucks, but like with Mike Evans last year, that same situation happened where they weren't able to negotiate a contract before the season. They just kind of put it on hold. He played fantastic, lights out, one of the best seasons, if not the best of his career. And he was able to negotiate. A lot of people were worried at the time that there wasn't going to be a negotiation or that he was going to be a free agent, like it wasn't going to work out. And it ended up working out for them by taking that time to negotiate or to hold off negotiations until the next season. With this one, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the exact same just because Jamar is so much younger than Mike Evans. Mike's more established, he's more vet, more mature. So I feel like, his inkling would be more to stay in an area where he's got that continuity where, it's more familiar to him. Whereas Jamar, he's about his prime, which is scary to think because of all those numbers you listed before, and he still hasn't hit his physical prime yet. I just think all of that combined with his age is just, it's a little bit different where I could see him, long term, this biting the Bengals in the butt and him wanting to get more money, and he might just seek it elsewhere.
Yeah, and to be clear with Jamar Chase is holding in, and meaning that he is still all about the team. He's handing out towels, handing out water bottles. You see him coaching up the players on the sidelines and stuff. So Jamar Chase, it seems like he wants to be in Cincinnati, and it's something that we've brought up a few times on our show. As far back about I think about 2 weeks ago with Jalen Brunson. The chemistry, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are close, and that they both put up prolific numbers at LSU that year. And Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow absolutely said, I want Jamar Chase, go get him for me, and we will do something big here, and which they did. And they've been one of the best offenses when both are healthy in the last few decades, honestly. So I think that's what the big factor is here is that Jamar Chase does seem like he wants it. He just wants to get the respect that he deserves, especially after watching one of his honestly his number 2 receiver at LSU get paid before him and get paid more. So you can debate on who's better, Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. That's a debate for another day. But I think that's where Jamar Chase is at. Is I got to see my boy get paid over there, and they're giving him love, and they're definitely not as close to winning a Super Bowl as we are. Give me some love and let's get this deal done. I want to be here. That's why I'm holding in and sticking with the team. So he's not publicly, griping with it. He just wants to get paid. He's using the old Marshawn Lynch, no comment when asked about contract stuff. Is that why you're holding out? Or holding in, excuse me.
Just here,
Which sounds kind of funny too. Have we ever seen a job that you can hold in, not do anything, and still make money off of it? It's so good to be an athlete sometimes.
So much so. I wish honestly there were days when instead of just running camera, I could just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and somebody else can run it. I'm just gonna chill.
Yeah, I mean, like, what other job in the world can you just walk in and be like, I'm not doing a damn thing today. I'm just gonna sit here. You're still gonna pay me the full amount of money that you're gonna pay me, and I'll be nice to people. But if not, I don't really feel like doing that either. I'm just not gonna participate today, but I still expect to get paid. It's great to be an athlete.
Yep. So
Yes. Well, you also have to remember this is what makes things interesting for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is that they also have T. Higgins who is unhappy as well. They let Tyler Boyd go, so that's why I'm kind of thinking they're kind of playing with fire in this situation because they've already made it pretty much clear to T. Higgins, you are on your way out. You're not our future. They signed him on a franchise tag in which he was trying to get out of there already because he is completely the number 2 in that offense, in which he's a 1A on every other team. He is arguably a number 1 receiver, but just Jamar Chase, I think, fits in with Burrow and their scheme a little bit better than T. Higgins does. But if you only got Higgins locked up for 1 more year, if you think to the future, you could literally be losing Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in the same year, which would be a humongous blow. And that window for the Super Bowl will just close shut. You also just lost Joe Mixon as well. So they need to get their finances correct and get the guys in there that need to be there and fix them up. What do you think about that, George?
I think they're gonna pay Chase. I don't think it's gonna come down to that. I don't think they're gonna try to let him go at all. Bro, he's amazing receiver, top 5, 100%. Route running, catching ability, agile, super athletic, fast as hell too. He's like probably like a few steps behind Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But with the T Higgins situation, man, yeah, that's why he wants to get paid because, like you said, he's a 1A on other teams. Like the number
Yeah,
one team that I thought he was going to go to was the Carolina Panthers. I thought he was going to go over there and get paid.
that's a good fit.
But he probably like feels like I don't know if it's going to be the same situation somewhere else, which is why. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which is why he didn't ask for a trade request. Correct? Or
Higgins
he
or
did?
Chase?
No, Higgins.
Higgins did ask for a trade.
He did ask for a trade,
Yeah,
and then
he did request.
they locked him down and they gave him the franchise tag. Okay,
Correct. Yes.
so in this situation, the Bengals are trying to see like, you know what, we don't really want to trade you. We're gonna franchise tag you, and if you prove to us that you can be a true wide receiver one here with another wide receiver one here, you could put up these numbers, you could catch these touchdowns, you could win us games. Then we'll think about giving you a fat contract behind Jamar Chase. They need to secure Jamar Chase first, which I think they're going to do,
Yeah.
and then give T. Higgins the money if he proves himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jamar Chase is hands down the behind Joe Burrow, the most important player on that team. Them two together just put up dynamic numbers, So I think that's big news for the Cincinnati Bengals that they need to get that situation figured out. Because without Chase, you're already going to lose Higgins as well. You go from I can't name anybody else even on that team in the offensive side besides those two. So I
And they
think it's a
lost
major.
Joe Mixon.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was saying before too. They lost Joe Mixon to the Texans, so like their window of winning, it just seems like it would be diminished if they can't get a deal done for Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they can definitely get Jamar his money, and I think they could also too like do the same thing for T. Higgins. We've seen some teams be able to balance two $20 million wide receivers. It's not possible for every team, but I mean that's what the Bucs did with Godwin and Evans. So like they can, if where there's a will, there's a way, and I think they can definitely find a way to satisfy both Higgins and Chase for sure.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side of the old hokey pokey dance we were doing a little bit ago was we have the Dallas Cowboys and star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, who is actually holding out of training camp for a new contract. CeeDee had the best year of his career, and if these numbers are just insane, he had 135 receptions for first in the league, 1,749 yards for second in the league, 12 TDs for third in the league, and average 13 yards per reception. Whew. Man, that is one hell of a year for CeeDee Lamb out there. CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are in a very different, a very interesting spot, which we'll go over in more depth on the next episode. We talk about the NFC East. Mike, this is your Cowboys. How far do you think this will go into the season for CeeDee Lamb?
I honestly don't know, man, because like I alluded to earlier, I think they're trying to see who's gonna drop the ball first between the Bengals and the Cowboys, man. But as a fan, I really hope that doesn't go for long because before we got on the show, before we went live, Steve was going over it, and it's true what he's saying. Like we lose CeeDee Lamb, who's the next one up? Brandon Cooks. That guy hasn't been a wide receiver one since he was in. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in the Rams or in the Saints or in the Texans. Like
Patriots.
even in those teams, he still wasn't a true wide receiver one. Just because he's short, yeah, he's fast, he catches the ball and he runs routes well. But being his size and not being like super agile and speedy fast like Tyreek Hill, it's kind of a downgrade in a sense. So he's never been a true wide receiver one. So we lose CeeDee Lamb. Go ahead.
That's not a diss on Brandon Cooks either, because Brandon Cooks has, for some crazy way, have been able to put up almost every single year in the league, almost 1,000 yards, almost every single year, and he's like the most forgotten about 1,000-yard receiver almost in history because he's been on so many different teams. But it's impressive, honestly, that he's been able to go from team to team to team and still put up over 1,000 yards almost every single year of his career. But to piggyback, before you jump on that one, Brandon, real quick, to piggyback off of what Mike was saying, if you don't know, I was just looking this up. The rest of the wide receivers for the Dallas Cowboys as we stands right now is Jalen Brooks, Rasay McGrath, David Doolin, Brandon Cooks, Kevontae Tupin, Jalen Cooper, and Cam Johnson, Jalen Tolbert, and that's it. Are you getting 500 yards out of any of those guys?
No, none whatsoever. So, Yeah, this is definitely something for Dallas. Like you need to get this man his money. And will it happen or not? I'm sure it will. I mean, I know Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones, but I feel like, you know, if you want to keep Dak happy, you want to make sure like this team stays together at least somewhat, you need to pay this man his money, and don't play games. Don't mess around. He's not going to be the type that's going to be super patient. Like I think he wants to get his bag, and if you're not going to pay him now, someone will.
And especially that we don't even have a good running back core, man. We're bringing in Zeke to hopefully and pray that he could do a 2015 campaign again. And I seriously doubt that's going to happen. We got Den Whittle behind him. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced his name, but that's the first
Yeah,
thing.
Rico Daddle.
Yeah, Dabble. He hasn't proved anything really. Like, yeah, he had little spurts last year and a couple of games and stuff like that, but it was like I could count on my finger how many games that he actually had like more than 50 yards. Like, dude, like it's not something to go into the next season when our previous season was probably one of our biggest chances to win a Super Bowl, and we just flat out choked it in the playoffs. And it's like you go into the offseason having this hope, oh, all right, like we have a lot of potential, boom, boom, boom. We lose two offensive linemen. Some of our defensive players are going at it with each other. One is having a podcast that he's most focused on that. Obviously, that's just the media saying that he's most focused on that. I don't believe that. I think Michael Parsons is a true professional. He's going to always be a professional at the end of the day. But then on the offensive side, you got a quarterback that doesn't know if he's going to be there long term or not. You heard what he said the other day, saying that he might be playing for another team. And then your number one wide receiver last year had to speak up and say, yo, give me the ball more. And now in the offseason, you're not giving him the bag that he deserves after having such an amazing season for a wide receiver that we probably haven't seen in the last 5 years. And it's just like, dude, what are we doing as a front office for the Dallas Cowboys, man? What are we doing?
That, my friends, is what you call a professional tease for next week as we talk about the NFC East, man. So with CeeDee Lamb, though, what the interesting thing with CeeDee Lamb is I feel like CeeDee Lamb is a little bit different than a lot of the other wide receivers in the league. He's very quiet. CeeDee Lamb isn't a diva wide receiver. He's more of a grinding guy that, a locker room guy that you're not going to hear him complaining. The only time you heard him complaining, and he had every reason to be complaining, is whenever he went to the bye week and he told Mike McCarthy, basically, what are we doing? Why am I not getting the ball? And then from that point on, from the bye week on, CeeDee Lamb they couldn't not throw the ball to him. It went off. And maybe it took Mike McCarthy to realize, you're right, we're not doing that. And why the hell am I not doing that? So I think that was like a major stepping point for him, and good for CeeDee Lamb for not going to the media to bitch about things. He went to like you should and go to your coach and handle it like an adult, like a true superstar and an actual on a man should. So shout out to CeeDee Lamb for that one. And I do think it is inevitable for him to get paid. It's going to be really, really interesting because of what the Cowboys situation is. I will definitely be hitting the Cowboys a lot next week, I'm sure, because that NFC East has a lot of stuff going on in it. So that would be a really fun show to go break down all that stuff. But since we were just talking about these two guys, who do you think gets the deal done first?
I feel like because of the pressure that's on the Cowboys, they're probably going to get the deal done first. I feel like with the Bengals, there's a little bit more, because Chase, I think, has that personality to maybe, like you said, he's got that connection with Burrow. I feel like there's a little bit more opportunity to negotiate with him, again, regardless of the age. But with Lamb, I think it's a more urgent need just because of the lack of weapons you have with Dallas outside of him.
Mike, I'm sure you're hoping, praying. What do you think, though?
Yeah, no, I'm hoping that CeeDee Lamb gets paid today after this podcast. Like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, stop playing games and get in the money. But to answer the question, I don't really know who's gonna get paid first. Honestly, they're just trying to see who's gonna misstep and drop the ball and be like, you know what, we're gonna pay him already.
Yeah, and honestly, CD, if you guys are out there going to sign a deal, can you possibly wait till we're about to go on the show for next week's, just so we can get that content for you? No big requests. I mean, it's only money for you guys. It's just trying to help us out here a little bit. But anyways, I'm going to go on the aspect of I don't think either one of them are going to get paid this season. And I think it's going to drag out into next season. The Bengals have pretty much already made their stance that they don't plan on doing anything this year, and technically both of them are under contract. So either it's going to be one of those situations of either you play or don't, but either way, you're going to get stuck. stuck. And I think the Cowboys have a lot to figure out because they have a lot more mouths to feed, and where the money's going to come from in that one. So I'm going to go with both. I think it's going to linger into next season for both of these guys, unfortunately, because they're both two amazing wide receivers. Arguably, you can put them 1, 2, or 3, however you want to do it in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a lot to unpack in that one, and I can't wait for next week as well when we talk about the NFC East, because there's a lot going on in there. But as of right now, we also have some other training camp news that we are going to talk about. There was a story that just came out, and we were just talking about the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk the other day, and Brandon Ayuk did show up to camp, and Brandon Ayuk is doing the same thing as a hold-in. So that was just a little update from last week when we were talking about Brandon Ayuk, who's going to go there. He's still technically, he also requested a trade. He's still there. But the 49ers also had some interesting news come out that head coach Kyle Shanahan offered legendary coach Bill Belichick a job as the defensive coordinator, and Belichick reportedly turned it down. Brandon, I have to ask you a question on this one. Was that A, the smart move for Belichick, and B, is it time for Belichick to realize that maybe his time has passed?
I would say that for Belichick, just knowing his personality, I think that he wants to be the guy. He wants to be the one that's making all the decisions, whether that's good or bad or not. That's beside the point. Like, he wants to be the head coach. And so I think for his legacy, like if he wants to go out as a head coach, he wants to be remembered as a head coach. I think that is the right thing for him to do. However, if I was Bill Belichick, I would just be okay with, at this point, thinking, okay, like you said, my time has passed as a head coach. I still have a great defensive mind. I know maybe, as far as running the whole show, maybe let's stay away from that. But as far as at least, I know defense, I know that side of the ball so well. I would have taken it just because San Francisco is such a gold mine on defense. Like, we always talk about how loaded the offense is, but let's not forget the amount of stars that they have on the defensive end as well. So if I was Belichick, I would have taken it in a heartbeat, just because that could be another chance to win another Super Bowl, and to maybe also kind of help salvage a little bit of your legacy by saying, oh yeah, people always say Tom didn't need me. Well, guess what? I didn't need Tom. Just a little jab right there.
Dude, he's been in both situations. He's been an assistant coach and he's been a head coach for 20 plus years. And it's just like, I feel like I definitely agree with Brandon. I think that he just wants to be in that head coach position. I don't think he wants to take the step back of being an assistant, follow someone else's rules, how they do things, and you got to hold your tongue at times too. You can't be speaking whatever you want like he did in New England, because he was the head honcho there. Everything he said goes. If he goes to a team and he's the assistant or he's a defensive coordinator or whatever the case may be, he's going to have to hold back his tongue a lot. He's going to have to hold back his personality and stuff like that. Now, on that same breath, though, I think he didn't have an opportunity to get a head coaching position last year. So he was in his mindset of, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to chill. I'm going to find me a new girl that's 20-something years old. And he's pimping all over the world. And he's going to change up his mindset, revamp. And I think he'll go into this season or next season and try to get a job. And if it only comes down to him getting a DC job, I think he'll ultimately take it.
And that's something you can only hear on Views from the Stands. Belichick and pimping all over the world in the same sentence. I've never heard that one before, but maybe let's see if he maybe Belichick's got that swag behind closed doors. But honestly, with Belichick though, I kind of feel like that he kind of sort of needs to see the writing on the wall. And I know it's probably so much harder or easier said than done, considering all that he's accomplished in this league. But that's also why I think he should do it, is because you've already accomplished so much. There's no doubt of what your legacy was, that you are one of the, if not the greatest head coach of all time. So why not get a couple more rings out of there? And let's face it too, the NFL is always a revolving door. So let's just go the San Francisco route here. San Francisco is in that Super Bowl contending window. They needed a DC after losing D'Amico Ryans to the Houston Texans, who did a hell of a job down there. Who's to say that San Francisco isn't getting tired of Kyle Shanahan always making it and never winning it, or making it deep in the playoffs and never getting it? And who else better to turn the rings over if you need to get a championship than Bill Belichick? So I think Belichick kind of needs to understand that his And I'm telling Belichick, like, he needs to hear from me to understand something about football. But you get my point here is that I
Call
think that
Steve, damn it. Call him.
right, exactly. If you need some advice about football, I'm just like Michael Penix on the Madden.
He's in the swamp.
Madden.
He's
Exactly,
the
exactly.
coaching whisperer.
But in all actuality, though, I feel like that Belichick would be a great defensive coordinator. It's less stress on him. He won't be scrutinized for all his GM moves. Let's face it, he never was a great GM. He could never find a good wide receiver. He had Tom Brady and all the quarterbacks they've drafted under him. They're not there, or they weren't that good.
Yeah, Randy Moss. He had Chad
Booker.
Ochocinco. He had Gronk.
No, I'm talking about him as the GM. As the GM, though, he could never. Whenever he
I thought that was just a paraphrase you were using. Okay.
No. I mean, obviously, Randy Moss. I mean, there's not to take away that, but they had some decent wide receivers there. Tim Brown or Troy Brown. They had guys.
Yeah, they had guys.
It's just more of that. It was always somebody else doing that. Whenever Belichick finally was in charge, they drafted N'Keal Harry. They drafted probably a guard or something along those lines. He just was never really that good.
Kobe Myers.
Yeah, and then they let him go. That was the thing too. And then Jacoby Myers ended up going to the Raiders and having great season, So point being is that I feel like Belichick would be better suited in just being a coordinator and possibly taking over as the head coach. But I think his time has finally passed. He's just too old school now. And these guys just don't work the way they used to. They get paid too much. They don't have to do as much. And they're so much more entitled than the old school guys, almost the leatherheads, if you will. They're not getting the guarantees these other guys got. It's just a different breed of football. They don't respond to it anymore. I mean, hell, you've even had current players taking shots at him after he didn't get a coaching job this season. He's supposed to be the greatest, but yet no one wants to hire him. So I think his philosophy and his time has kind of came and went, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he would probably be an amazing defensive coordinator for any club in the league.
I wouldn't go that route of saying like no one wants to hire him. No, maybe there's just better candidates out there. Like, but that's not like saying like no one wants to hire him.
Well, there was I can't remember the player, but it was a player from the Eagles that made the comment that I thought this
Chris
guy was
Long,
supposed to be it was I don't know, I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Long, but he's basically saying if this guy's supposed to be the greatest, then how come no one hired him?
But dude, like, how many vacancy head coaching jobs were there this past season? 5?
I thought it was like 8, maybe 8 to 10, somewhere there. But yeah, maybe between 5 and 10. Let's just go that route.
Okay, so it's like not even half of the league. You'll say 35% of the league had head coaching vacancy jobs. It's like that's a small percentage right there to try to get hired, dude. Like if you really think about it, and you go on Indeed and try to apply for jobs, and you only have a 35% chance. What's gonna be your mentality there? You think you're gonna get hired or not? Like,
well, with the cachet of being Bill Belichick, you would think, but there was also the big rumor that he was supposed to get the Atlanta Falcons job, and apparently Arthur Blank, the owner, reached out to Robert Kraft, and Robert Kraft kind of sort of told him, "I wouldn't hire him."
I mean, dude, but that's Robert Kraft saying like, no, I don't want him on another team. Like that's how I see it, really. Like I don't think that Belichick would not be a good head coaching candidate for another team. Like how you said it, he has multiple rings, he has multiple winning seasons. Like even without counting the rings, he still has gone to the Super Bowl 2 more times. Yeah, he lost it. He's been to the AFC Championship like 5 more times. Yeah, he lost it, but he's up there and winning. So it's like, are you worried about the culture that he's gonna bring to the team, or what is it? I don't know. Like I just don't agree with that statement of, oh, he's the greatest of one of the greatest of all time, but he can't get a head coaching job. No, I believe he can. He's just it wasn't the moment for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it too. I mean, like if you take one of the same guys that's highly regarded too, Sean Payton didn't automatically get a job whenever he left the Saints either. Granted, he went into media, and Belichick's been doing a little bit of the media stuff, and really, I think for Belichick, I think if he wants to get back into coaching, I think like doing like that Brady roast, being on TV a little bit more. Apparently, for most of the players, they all say that he's actually a hilarious guy behind the scenes. You would never know it from how angry and evil he seems on the podium during press conferences. He just doesn't. He's a tactic guy. He doesn't want to tell you all his secrets out there. So I think Belichick would be would do really well if he show his personality a little bit more, and maybe some teams might be like, oh, hey, we can bring this guy in and actually he will gel. But I think he just has the stigma of the Patriots way, and that's it. And it just doesn't look good for the younger.
But put yourself in an owner's perspective or a GM perspective right now, both of you. As a GM or an owner of an NFL franchise that you want to be successful, you want to be on the winning path and this and that. Are you worried about how he's going to be perceived to the players and all this, or are you trying to win games? Which one is it?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, you can also go in the wrong direction, if you will. I mean, ergo Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was supposed to be the next great coach in Jacksonville. They finally found their guy. Him and Lawrence are going to make memories, and they're going to go to win the championships. And people are still making the excuse that Urban Meyer in 7 games or 13 games, whatever the hell it was, ruined Trevor Lawrence. So you can easily go a different direction by hiring the wrong candidate. I don't buy the Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence thing. I think Trevor Lawrence is just okay and not great as everybody thought they're going to be. And sometimes you're wrong. They all thought he was going to be generational. I can't buy into the fact that Urban Meyer ruined Trevor Lawrence. I don't buy that one. But it's also, you can do the same thing. You take Belichick and put him with Brock Purdy. Maybe that doesn't go the same because, hey, this guy doesn't do what I want him to do. He's not Brady or something, so I think it could go a different direction. It just depends on, I think, the players that you have and the team that you have. You have to have strong-willed football players if you're going to have a Belichick coach team.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're in the NFL, you better be strong and willed. You better be.
Yeah. I mean, it's everybody has their own approach to it, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some guys that are players coaches, we all know, and then you have guys that are hard nosed and you don't go talk to them. You have some coaches that their doors open, and you just go hang out with them. So that's not Belichick, but I just think that to put a ribbon on it, I do think that Belichick can still coach, and I think that people would be smart to hire him. I'm just not sure if I would hire him right off the bat as my head coach, unless it was the perfect situation with a good team around him. If he has a good team around him, he can do it. If you're looking for him to rebuild and help mold, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he don't want that either. I don't think
100% right. He's ready for a win now team, which is also kind of why I thought that was really interesting with the 49ers, because they are a win now team. And Shanahan, although a genius, they got to start getting close to hitting that button of maybe we just need to move on. It's not him, it's us or something, but
see, okay, real quick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but going off of that, yeah. Right? Because I don't like that mentality either. I'm not saying that you have that. I'm saying I know there's owners and GMs that have that mentality, and it's just I kind of alluded to okay, we have a chance to go to the beach, and we have a chance not to go to the beach. And you're telling me that we could go to the beach, but I can't get in the water, but I can still be at the beach. I'm going to the beach 10 out of 10 times. And that's what the Niners are doing. They're getting to the playoffs. They're getting to the NFC Championship. They're getting to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they're not closing it on then, but the last 2 times they lost is to arguably the best quarterback to ever play in the game. So it's it's I don't know, man. It's a hit or miss with that. I don't really think if a coach is successful, just like Greg Popovich in the NBA, he's won 5 chips, right? But he's had 22, 23 winning seasons. So what are you gonna account for the other 18 seasons? Oh, they're failures? No, you just can't win it all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's just if he's getting you to the promised land and he's not finishing, it is what it is. But he's getting you there. He's teaching you how to win. He's taking your team to get these dubs. I feel like you shouldn't really fire him in that.
Well, I think if we're specifically talking about Kyle Shanahan, then that's where the problem does come in, is that it's not the only team that this happened to him with. I mean, speaking ironically of Belichick and Kyle Shanahan, and no New England fan will ever forget the Falcons and Patriots game. That was Kyle Shanahan again as the OC for the Falcons. So I think Kyle Shanahan, if we're talking about him specifically, he's had a history of being great, but just not great enough.
But going up against GOATs.
Yeah.
He lost to Andy Reid.
I think then the thing that would help put Shanahan over the top in that situation, again, you're going up against great quarterbacks. What stops great quarterbacks? Great defensive coordinators. Look at, again, I keep bringing up the Bucs, but it's just Bucks in the Super Bowl against Mahomes. You had a great defensive game plan that shut him down. And I think that maybe having, the Falcons in the Super Bowl didn't really have the best defensive coordinator on that team.
at all.
Whereas, and the same thing with the Niners against the Chiefs. I think if you get a defensive minded coach like a Belichick, he's not going to be the reason why you won the Super Bowl. That's your coach and that's going to be your whole scheme. But I think he's somebody that can chip in, and perhaps those schemes and that mindset might be the thing that takes you over the top. And it sucks that couldn't get it done, because I think that very well might be the thing that does help them win. But again, it's Bill's decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting, honestly, whenever you go down with the coaching routes or whatever, because like how much of coaching actually is coaching, or is it the players that really win you the games or whatever. So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. It will be kind of wild to see if Belichick does actually come out of come off of retirement and go coach another team again, and where that ends up, we may never know. But that's another time for that's another time and place for that one. But we also do have some exciting, fun stuff to get into. We have the AFC East, and this division is going to be one hell of a division and fun to watch, in my opinion. We had on top, we had the Buffalo Bills winning it for, I believe, the 5th consecutive year in a row. They came in with a record of 11-6, with a 64% winning record in here. They were 244th in passing, which was 8th in the league. They were 26.5 points for, 18.4, or excuse me, 18.3 for 4th in the league for points against, and had averaged 130.1 rushing yards a game. Now, we all know Josh Allen is the man on this team. G-Mike, so this division is pretty wild, man. What's your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills this year?
I think they took a huge step back. They lost their wide receiver one. They lost their wide receiver two. They lost one of their best strong safeties. Um, they still, now with Von Miller coming back, they're gonna see how he's gonna be playing this season after having that injury last year. And I don't think it's looking good for them, man. Especially with how deep this AFC East division is with the Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, and I mean, yeah, we're not gonna throw the Patriots in the mix, but like the Patriots can still give you a hard time with their defense. So it's like they could take a win away from you, and that win can ultimately bring you down to the bunch. So I think the Buffalo Bills are gonna be sitting somewhere around third place this year, man, with the Dolphins and Jets fighting at the top. And
Wow,
dude,
third.
yeah, bro, losing Stephon Diggs is a big hit. Losing Gabe Davis was a hit, not that much of a hit. But losing Jordan Poyer, man, oh man, and especially to your divisional rival.
Yeah.
Oh man.
BC, how you feeling about the Bills, man?
I mean, I feel the exact same way that George does. Like, yeah, I know they were able to kind of shore up some of their losses in the draft, getting Keon Coleman and Cole Bishop. But yeah, I mean, and Ray Davis to Kentucky is a nice addition to the team. But yeah, it's tough to replace star players like that. And I think that we're definitely going to see a regression from the Bills. And, I do agree with George. Spoiler alert, I think Bills are going to be third place behind Miami and New York.
Man, you guys are pretty doom and gloom on the Bills. I'm not jumping off the ledge on them as hard as you guys are on this one. I'm interested to see how Keon Coleman does work out this year. They definitely lost some weapons on the offensive side for sure, with losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. But here's my thing with losing Stephon Diggs is that Diggs seemed like he was just more of a thorn in the side for the Bills than anything. So I don't necessarily think that that's going to be as bad of an issue for the Bills as it sounds. Yes, you're losing a star player, but let's face it, the second half of the season, Stephon Diggs was unheard of on the damn team. You still got Shakir out there, who's a pretty good player. You got the young guy out there, Keon Coleman, who seems like everybody's really interested in. He does great in the interviews and does he just seems like a fun guy. So I think the Bills, he's not going to be, he will, it's TBD to find out if he's going to be able to replace those guys. But I think I don't think they're going to be as bad. And I really think that they're maybe just going to change the offense a little bit. So maybe they won't be that, gunslinging, throw it 50 yards down the field team that they used to be. Maybe they'll be a little bit more consistent with the shorter game and just win out games. Their defense did take some hits with losing Jordan over there, but I don't think the Bills are in as bad of shape as it sounds.
Oh, and they lost Tre'Tavious White.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
lost
they definitely,
Katavius
without a doubt, they definitely lost some players. There's no doubt about that. You can't deny that in any way, shape, or form. But I just don't think that they're going to be as. I don't think the players that they lost are going to affect them as bad as it seems on paper. Especially with Gabe Davis did have a lot of touchdowns, but Gabe Davis would at times just disappear, and you wouldn't hear from him. Then he could put up a
Right.
4-touchdown game. So Gabe Davis's numbers are a little bit inflated. Let's not forget he did have a 4 or 5 touchdown game. Those numbers, whenever you're looking on paper, whenever he had 12 touchdowns for the year, 5 of them came in one game. So he was pretty inconsistent. So I think that they have some weapons out there still, but I think you might just see a little bit more balanced game this year. And maybe Josh Allen won't have to be the Superman that he generally tries to be and forces some interceptions sometimes. So I don't think the Bills are in as bad a shape. I definitely, going into last year, I had a lot more confidence in them, but this year I don't think that they're going to be as, doom and gloom as you guys seem to be on them. And third place, that's kind of low for you guys, huh?
Dude, just piggybacking off of that though, what you were saying about the offensive stuff, like you lose a true wide receiver one. The defensive schemes that they have for just the wide receiver ones when it comes to the secondary and even the linebackers, bro, they put a lot of focus on these receivers because receivers nowadays, let's face it, like they're the top notch players of this game right now. With the quarterback throwing them the ball, we've gone regressed from the running back game. We've gone into the passing game the last 10 years. And it's just when defenses go up against a dude like Stephon Diggs, they're going to have defensive schemes just for him. You take him out the mix and you have these young guys that need to prove themselves, the defensive schemes are going to change. There's going to be a lot of press coverage. There's going to be a lot of over the top on some of these players. They're not going to probably get the same chances as they would with Stephon Diggs out there. Like, oh, man, he's being double covered. Yo, I'm going to be open on this play. Now it's going to be like, damn, I might be the one double covered.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget too, they do have the young tight end who I think is going to have a great season coming in. It might become like their number one receiver, Dalton
oh, yeah,
Kincaid.
yeah, yeah. He'll be like a Mark Andrews.
Yeah, exactly. He has that type of body style. He's big. He has great hands. So I do think, obviously, you don't want to lose Stephon Diggs. There's no way around that one. But I just kind of feel like it almost could be a turnaround to be a blessing in disguise. Like almost like addition by subtraction, by taking away what seemed to be a negative person in the locker room, and for some reason just wasn't liking the team. He started talking shit about Josh Allen and like just making little jabs and making
yeah,
little
the diva
digs.
mentality came out.
Yeah, making little digs, if you will. Get it? But yeah, thank you. I will take that one. Thank you. Round of applause. Thank you. VC,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts, man? Do you think the addition by subtraction theory will work for the Bills?
I think it will in the long term, but I think short term wise, I think most cases you rarely see addition by subtraction really pay dividends within the first year. I think that, like you said, Kincaid's he's going to keep making steps. Some of these rookies and stuff are going to get their reps, but I think that next year is going to be the year that maybe, if they're able to keep this core together, I think that's when you're going to start seeing it pay off. Just because, again, a lot of these additions that they made are young players. So, again, we rarely see young players, especially rookies like with Keon Coleman, Ray Davis coming in and really making an impact like that. So I think, again, this year, they'll still be a solid team, but I think that it's going to take time for maybe some of these new players, this new core to come in and gel. And I think next year you're going to see the steps being taken by the Bills.
Yeah, and I think with the Bills, with the wide receiver core, the way it's at, I personally feel like that James Cook is going to have a hell of a year, and he's going to become one of their lead receivers because he has great hands, and I think they'll probably be a little bit more a balanced running attack. So I think it's going to be a different type of Bills team that we've been used to with the big arm of Josh Allen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So moving on to the second place and the AFC East, we have the Miami Dolphins coming in at 11-6, tied with the Buffalo Bills. The Miami Dolphins were all about the offense, man. Coming in, they had the highest amount of passing yards per game, 265.5. They had 135.8 rushing yards per game, which was sixth in the league. They had the 29.2 points for and 23 even at 22nd in the league for points against. What do you guys think of the Miami Dolphins this year, fresh off of Tua getting PAID?
I think they're gonna make steps this year. I really was impressed with their offseason. I like, especially in the draft, getting Chop Robinson. He's gonna be a big help. We talk all about the offense, but they made some good additions on the defensive side
Yes, they
too. You
did.
got Chop
Facts.
Robinson, and then you got Poirier as well for your defensive backfield. Like I think that they made the they made the additions that they needed to make. And I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but Shaq Barrett, at the time, it was a smart move. I know that he retired, but they were still able to get Emmanuel Ogbah as a replacement. That, he was on the team last year. That's some good continuity for the pass rush. I think defensively, they made some steps, and offensively too. You've got more protection for Tua now. You've got Patrick Paul out of Houston, offensive tackle. You got Jalen Wright now in your backfield as well with Mostert. That's going to be a good. The offense is getting better with some small tweaks here and there, and then the defense as well. They got some game changers now on that side that I think is going to be big for them to make that next step this year and potentially make a run at the East title.
All right, G Mike, are you all in on the Dolphin or what?
I am. They did a lot of support to their defensive game last year. I really didn't think they had a good rush defense with their linebackers, and then this year they go ahead and pick up 4 new linebackers. So they're really listening to the fans in a sense, and obviously they know what they're doing. So it's like they're bringing in people that are really going to help their squad because on the offensive end they don't really need that much, and except for the O line. And that's always been the thing with Miami. Their O line has always been like wishy washy. It's never been good. It's never been great. It's always been like up and down, like some stocks in the stock market. But just with the Dolphins overall, I like what they did this past offseason. I like what they did last year. Last year they had a chance to get the number 1 seed. They eventually choked it against the Tennessee Titans. They lost that game and it basically ruined their home field advantage. So they had to go to Kansas City and play in Kansas City in January. Man, if you're not built for that cold, man, you're not winning that game. And it's just you saw it unfold there. But I do
Yeah.
like what they're doing. I like their promising for this year, and I have them at the top of this division, 100%.
Say what you will about OBJ, but I think that was a great signing for the Miami Dolphins out there. He is, typical OBJ hurt at the moment, but I do think that he's going to be a major contributor for the Miami Dolphins this year.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, you have the 2 speedsters on the outside, and then you have a steady, obviously we all know Odell Beckham never lost his hands. He might his body just not be what it used to be, but he's still only like 32 maybe or so, something like
Yeah.
that. So it's not like the guy is pushing retirement or something. But I think that he's a consistent and it seems like a great locker room guy. Him and Jalen Ramsey get along really well. He seems like he's fitting in with Tua, Tyreek. So I do think that was a underrated signing. It didn't really make a bunch of headlines, but I do like that one. But I'm glad that you brought up the last year's playoffs, because I think that's what the Dolphins' MO has been for the last couple of years, is that when they play at home, they are unstoppable. You damn sure can't beat them, really. They use the Miami Heat and everything that's in the actual stadium add to the advantage. If they can play at home in the playoffs, they're going to make a lot of noise, and which I do expect them to be making the playoffs without a doubt. But that's where it's going to come down to. And I think this season is the season for them to be able to do this, is because the Bills seem like they're a little bit down. We'll get into the Jets next, but we're not quite sure what the Jets are going to be. And let's face it, the Patriots are in a long haul of a rebuild, unless Drake May, shocks the world. Drake May or Jacoby Brissett. But I think this is going to be the Dolphins' time. And yes, all my friends out there, I did just say I think the Dolphins are going to be great this year. But I think that's going to be a very fun, exciting team to watch, and I'll be definitely checking out a lot of them. Except when they play, I believe it's October 6th, possibly when they play against the Colts. But having said that,
Well, and Bucks got him in preseason too, so that's
there you go. There you go. I have a lot of expectations for the Dolphins this year, though, honestly. I think the Dolphins finally, to me, look like they are ready to go. I like the head coach. I think they're set up perfect. Tua is finally paid, so you don't have that lingering. He is the guy. Tyreek is healthy, and I think Jalen Waddle is going to have one hell of a bounce-back season. Waddle just could never get right last year, and he already has a great chemistry with Tua. So I think the Dolphins will be making a lot of noise out there.
And speaking of a couple other underrated signings as well, Jonnu Smith and Calais Campbell as well. Just a couple other. Jonnu Smith gives you, he's going to fight with Odell for that third, fourth option. But again, that's a great problem to have. And then Calais Campbell as well. George, you talked about it with the run defense earlier. He's a great defensive veteran to have, and he's just
Hmm.
stout, add some size up front. So that's, again, a couple other great moves for Miami that, I think there's a reason why, I've got him at the top. George got him at the top. Steve, if you want to wait till the end, save him for your prediction as well. But,
Yeah, I'll save it. Just keep people wanting more. But the tight end room actually is pretty decent there too. John O. Smith, although is a little bit in the tail end of the career, John O. Smith and Smythe is there too, and he's an underrated tight end as well. So the Dolphins look like they are jam packed and ready to roll this season with the offense without a doubt, and the defense definitely one of the things they were slightly lacking on last year. I think is poised to make some noise out there. So we got the New York Jets coming in at shockingly at a record of 7-10. Did you guys really honestly remember that the Jets won 7 games last year? I couldn't tell you that. I would have thought, it'd have been like the Panthers like 2-16 or something. But the Jets managed to win 7 games last year.
That defense, boy, that defense is serious.
I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, coming into the league last year, they were one of the worst passing teams. They averaged 171.7 passing yards per game, which was 30th. Rushing yards was 96.9, which was tied for 22nd in the league. Points for was 15.8, and points against was 20.9. That defense, George, you were right on the money. That defense is what won 7 games. It damn sure wasn't the offense. Mike, what else do you think about these Jets, though, man?
Bro, if they have Aaron Rodgers, man, they're gonna be fighting for that number 1 spot against the Miami Dolphins 100%. It's just that even with Rodgers healthy, just like the Dolphins, their offensive line is shaky, man. And it's like you have a quarterback back there that he's either 40 years old or almost hitting 40 years old. You guys correct me on that. Yeah, he's around there. He has what could have been a season-ending injury and an Achilles tear. Almost came back and played in the same season. If he really wanted to, he would have played, but he didn't want to do that, and it wouldn't be smart for the team. And as fans, really, of just the game, like, dude, don't risk that. Sit out the whole year. Come back next year. So he comes back. He's healthy. They're just going to have to worry about that offensive line because their wide receivers are good. The running back room is deep. Their defense is amazing, probably top 5 in the NFL. So the only thing you really need is the quarterback and the offensive line that's going to protect the quarterback. The quarterback is there. He's a Hall of Fame player. He's a Super Bowl champion. He'll get you the wins. But if you can't protect him and you can't stop from teams pressuring him or even getting sacks, it's going to be a long year for the offense.
Well, and that's why I think getting Olaf Fashanu is such a good idea to tackle out of, or Tate rather. I think that's such a good idea for them to.
And Tyron Smith from us.
Yeah, like getting those 2 guys back there on the outside protecting Aaron Rodgers is such a smart move for them. They got a couple other draft picks as well. I like, Corley out of Western Kentucky, Allen out of Wisconsin. And then also, too, just thinking ahead for the future. I know it's not going to factor in much this year, but Jordan Travis out of Florida State. He's got a guy that can sit behind Rodgers, can learn the system, kind of almost like how Jordan Love did. I think that's a smart move. But as far as this year goes, like I think that they made a lot of really good moves on offense to get better. Defensively, I don't see it as much, especially losing Jordan Whitehead. I think that that's something that's going to really kind of hurt the defensive back. And I know you got Sauce Gardner, one of the best, if not the best corner in the league. But I think that you definitely need more than just him back there. And I think losing Whitehead's going to be something that, it's not going to be enough to take him out of the top 10 or even top 5, but it's definitely something that is going to knock him down a couple spots in defense for sure.
Yeah, and let's not forget too the Jets signed Mike Williams out of off from the Chargers in the offseason, who is gonna he's big body, he's great on the outside wide receiver, is gonna be able to catch a lot of passes out there and take some pressure off of Garrett Wilson, because I do think like Garrett Wilson is just an absolutely amazing receiver, and he kind of gets forgotten about, I feel like, in the pantheon of all these wide receivers just because of he's had such bad quarterback play since he's been in the league, but he's arguably right now still in the top 10, I feel like, for young wide receivers. And he's probably going to be on that track here pretty soon if he has a breakout year to be wanting that money as well for the Jets. Well, here's the interesting thing about the Jets to me, and this all revolves around Aaron Rodgers. Let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is definitely a polarizing figure. But I have a hard time with Aaron Rodgers sometimes because I feel like Aaron Rodgers gets way too much credit. And for the simple fact of we brought it up a little bit ago. In Green Bay, they have been to how many NFC championships, and Rodgers only got one title out of that entire run, but yet everybody is ready to anoint him as one of the top greatest of all time. He's a surefire Hall of Famer. His numbers are not that, if he retired today, his numbers are not that much different from Eli Manning, but yet Eli Manning is arguably not going to make, some people like he's not a Hall of Famer, but yet Eli Manning has been able to make it to 2 Super Bowls and not lose. So I feel like with Aaron Rodgers, I don't understand the absolute outcry and love for Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he throws a beautiful pass. Yes, he's an amazing quarterback, but I don't think that I think that he gets too much credit sometimes. Am I wrong in this one?
I wouldn't say you're wrong because it's your opinion, really. But I would just say I think the difference between Eli Manning and the Giants with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is that Eli Manning had Arsenal around him. Aaron Rodgers, some years he didn't. Some years he did. It's just like if you're not giving him all the weapons that he needs, it's gonna be tough for him to get to that point of winning. You know what I'm saying? And even on the defensive side, the Packers' defenses sometimes were complete ass, and Aaron Rodgers was just carrying that team. And for the Giants, they were really good, really well stacked. Yeah, especially the 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots. Both of those teams for the Giants were great on both sides.
Yeah, and I would kind of push a little bit though too with regards to Rodgers and the talent around him. I would say offensively, like he's had talent to a certain
Exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
But I would say the defense though, like there were a lot of times when you would have got that defense finishing in the bottom 5 of the league. So, and again, to George's credit, exactly. And that's the one thing with the Giants back with Eli, they always had great defenses surrounding him. Like, you know, the offense, sometimes it was kind of average, hit or miss. It wasn't the greatest, but that defense you had, I mean, starting to list off, you got Michael Strahan at the top of that team. Like that
right there by himself is for quarterbacks is a nightmare.
So it's one of those things where, you know, I think Rodgers has had consistent offensive help. It's the defense that is different. And I think that this is why I think this is a really good situation for him in New York. Again, it would have been nice if they kept Whitehead, but it's still a better defense than I think most of the teams that he has been with.
Let me be clear though, too. I'm not comparing Rodgers to Eli Manning. I think that they're different players. What my point is that if everybody likes to go off of rings and stats and stuff whenever you get in these debates, if you will, if he stopped today, he's not like some of the guys that are ahead of him. They don't get the same respect and love and instant Hall of Famer that Aaron Rodgers does. And that was always been my issue with Aaron Rodgers, is that maybe because he throws such a nice ball that people just automatically put him as a Hall of Famer and everything. In the grand scheme, he only has 1 ring. So, I mean, and he's, you know, so like in that whole entire time, you brought it up a little bit ago, how many Super Bowls has Aaron Rodgers been to? You know, I mean, so that's my only issue with Aaron Rodgers. I just feel like that he gets way too much credit and not enough credit whenever not enough discredit for whenever they don't make it to the Super Bowl, because he's had the teams to be able to get there, but yet it's always somebody else, never Aaron Rodgers' fault that they haven't been able to do it. I took offense to that.
And I think too, the thing with Rodgers is that a lot of times people just say, oh, well, he doesn't have the talent. Well, there's a reason why he hasn't always had talent, especially on defense, to get over the hump. And that's because he's always commanded these large contracts. He always takes the money. He always wants to get his bag. And that's fine. If you're okay with that, cool. But just be okay with the fact that you're not going to win as much because you're not going to be able to have enough money to sign other big game talent and stuff like that. And then don't say, I'm the greatest of all time. People say, well, what about your rings? Well, that's not my fault. Actually, yeah, it is when you're asking for all this money and you're not willing to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice something. If you want to win rings, you got to sacrifice money. If you want to get that money, you're going to have to sacrifice some winning. That's just the way it is.
That's what he chose. He chose sacrifice winning.
Yeah, and in the last few years, let's not act like Jordy Nelson was a scrub. Randall Cobb is not Randall Cobb what he is now. Randall Cobb was a legitimately 2-3 wide receiver. You had Aaron Jones. They had some good talent out there. They had a great offensive line a lot of times. So a lot of times I feel like that it's Rodgers that just never gets the blame for anything. It's always just somebody else's fault.
Well, I think,
but look at the defenses for those teams.
Yeah, but the thing is, we just got to be consistent with it. If we're going to give Rodgers credit when the team wins and everything, then we got to give him credit when the team loses. If we're going to say that, the defense is the reason why he loses, then we also need to say then the defense is the reason why he wins. I think that it just depends on, let's just be consistent with our criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
But that's what
I
that's
think
what the whole
that's
thing
more the
comes
point
from.
that I'm getting at.
That's where the whole thing comes from of defenses wins championships, because you can have an amazing offense, but
Yep.
dude, like Peyton Manning in the Denver Broncos when they went up against the Seattle Seahawks, amazing offense, one of the best offenses we've probably seen in the last decade. Went up against the Seattle Seahawks with the amazing defense they had.
Yeah.
They only scored 9 points.
Yep.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. That's a great comparison to that situation of what we were just talking about. But yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's like I definitely think that Rodgers definitely deserves his flowers. And Rodgers, I'm not making this a take that I think Rodgers sucks. I just feel like that he's slightly overrated sometimes of how much credit that he gets, and it's never his fault that he's ever lost anything, or you can only that argument can only last for so long. And you've had talent around you, and you've had decent running backs. And their defense hasn't been horrible every single year.
Yeah, it's not every single year.
Yeah,
and that's what I meant. That's what I meant about his offense too. Not every single year he had a star-studded offense, but he did have years that he did.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not like they've had scrubs for forever.
But hey, this year in New York, you got both sides of the ball great. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that they definitely have a lot to offer. Breece Hall is an amazing running back, which will help him out.
Top 5 fantasy pick, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And it's going to be a different Breece Hall, because if you remember last year, they couldn't do anything. So it was a lot of checkdowns. So he'll actually, instead of being a wide receiver, he'll probably actually be able to get to play running back.
Especially with Aaron Rodgers, that he loves running a fucking great play action plays.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. And I mean, it's better for the league whenever he is playing though, too. So like, I am hoping that he's able to last the season, because there's nothing saying that the same thing doesn't happen right away. I mean, he is going into his 40s, if not 40, and then just coming off an Achilles. That's not an easy injury to come back from. Yes, he was able to probably come back. If they were in a playoff hunt, they probably could have came back, but that's still not an easy injury to come back from, especially at that age. Let's face it, you don't heal the same.
Yeah,
Sure.
I blame the Jets in their field.
You what?
The Jets in their field. How are you a $1 billion corporation and you do not want to play for natural born grass? I don't get that. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue for a lot of teams with the grass situation, and it leads just to injuries. Like it needs to be something that's fixed.
Yep. Look at Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders. Same exact thing.
Yeah, so we got a lot of high hopes of the Jets. So now let's go down to the last place team in the division, and that is the New England Patriots, who, no disrespect to New England, but they won 4 games last year. Can you that's mind-boggling too.
Can we make this one quick? Because it's like, dude, they're in rebuild mode. We know that.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about the Patriots right now. They got a new head coach. The Belichick era is over. They drafted Drake May. They got Jalen Polk, who is going to be possibly a wide receiver. But the Patriots sounds like they almost have too many wide receivers in that room, and who's going to make the team and who's not. They're just definitely in a.
It's like tryouts for the city and shit.
It really is. It's almost tryouts for trades. Like who's going to actually catch some passes and see who's going to get out there. I don't think anybody really has too many high hopes for the Patriots. Vegas has them as the worst team coming into next season. Let's see how the Drake May experiment works. If they do get the number 1 pick next year, we'll see what happens. So I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up for the Patriots. They're just in complete rebuild mode. I think they'll probably end up with about the same record, 4-13, somewhere in there. So the moment we've all been waiting for, let's go ahead and recap this. So the AFC champion, BC, who's it going to be?
Out of the East, I got Miami Dolphins. Then I got the Jets at number 2, Bills 3, and Patriots 4.
G Mike, same question.
I do not have a definitive answer just because of what I was saying earlier about the offensive line. Whichever offensive line comes to play this season throughout the whole season and the playoffs, well, we're going off just season here. So throughout the whole season will be the number 1 team to win in the division. If one team's offensive line goes kaput and the other one is mildly healthy, they're getting the number one spot. It's just, to me, is as simple as that.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, I am taking the Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East, and I got the Buffalo Bills in second place, the New York Jets in third, and I have the New England Patriots in last, which is, goes without saying for the Patriots on there. I really have a lot of high hopes for the Dolphins this year. I'm going to be bold and have them competing for the AFC Championship. That's a little, we'll jump ahead a little bit, but I just really think that if they can win the division, that gives them home field advantage, and they're going to shine if they're able to do that. If Buffalo is able to surprise a little bit of people with all the addition, with all what they've lost, and Miami comes in second, I think that they're going to have the same results that they've had in the last few years. But if Miami Dolphins can win, they're the number one seed for if the Miami Dolphins can win their division and are able to host home playoff games, they're going to go very deep in the playoffs. They are set up to win, and they look damn good.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gents, I think that is going to wrap it up for a Saturday episode. It's been a blast. We hope you watch next week as we're going to hit the NFC East. There's going to be a lot of talk in there with the Saquon news, with the Cowboys, trying to figure out who they're going to pay, who they're not going to pay. And yeah, they got the Eagles. That's a new one too, so. Well, for Views from the Stands, I am Steve B. We got G Mike, we got BC. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you guys next week. Take it easy breezy.
Yes, sir.
See ya.